Tokyo, a city that never sleeps. Beneath its neon lights and endless crowds, there are places where time stopped long ago. One of them lies beneath Shinjuku Station, where the last train never arrived, and the dead never left. They call it Line 13, a line that doesn't exist on any map. A tunnel sealed after the Great Fire of 1974. But some nights, when the clock strikes 0:13, people say you can still hear it, the sound of a train running through the dark, carrying passengers who no longer have faces. And among them walks a woman in white, her head missing, her voice whispering through the static of forgotten radios. They say she's searching for something, or someone, who once left her behind. This is her story. The story of the headless woman of Shinjuku. And the reporter who dared to remember her. Chapter 1. The Headless Woman of Shinjuku, The Call from the Darkness. Tokyo, 12:47 a.m. The last train had already departed. The corridors of Shinjuku Station were drenched in an eerie stillness, broken only by the faint hum of fluorescent lights flickering above the empty platform. A soft draft drifted through, carrying the scent of metal, damp concrete, and something else, faintly sweet, like rusted blood. Aya Takeda, a 27-year-old freelance journalist, clutched her camera tightly as she descended the final flight of stairs. She had come chasing a rumor whispered across late-night forums, a story about the headless woman who haunted the last non-existent train line, greater than Shinjuku Line 13, the one that doesn't exist. She murmured, half to herself, half to the shadows. Officially, there was no Line 13. Tokyo Metro ended at Line 12. But according to old construction plans from 1974, there had once been a secret line beneath Shinjuku, sealed after a catastrophic fire. And that was where, locals said, the woman appeared. Aya set up her recorder. The microphone caught the steady rhythm of dripping water, the buzz of electric wires, and then, something else. A whisper. Indistinct, feminine, almost calling her name. Greater than Aya. She froze. Her breath hitched. The air grew colder, pressing against her chest like invisible hands. The reflection in the glass wall across the platform shifted. At first, it was hers, the same coat, the same posture. But then, the reflection smiled, though she hadn't. And slowly, blood began to trickle down the glass, forming the faint silhouette of a woman in a white kimono standing behind her. Greater than, you came back, whispered a trembling voice. Aya spun around, nothing. Only the empty air, and the faint buzz of electricity. But on the far side of the platform, beneath the maintenance-only sign, the old metal door, sealed for nearly 50 years, clicked open by itself. A rush of freezing air spilled out, carrying the faint melody of a woman humming a lullaby, one that didn't belong to the living. Aya swallowed hard. Her camera light flickered. She whispered, greater than, for the story. Takeda, just one more step. And she stepped past the threshold. Into the darkness beyond, where the walls whispered and the air remembered death. As the door closed behind her, the lights of Shinjuku Station went out. Only the echo remained. Greater than, Line 13, departing soon. Chapter 2. Voices in the Walls. Tokyo, 12:53 a.m. The air behind the door was colder than ice. Aya felt it slide down her spine like a living thing. Her flashlight flickered weakly as she entered a narrow maintenance tunnel, damp concrete walls pressing in on both sides. Somewhere ahead, water dripped in a slow rhythm, echoing through the dark like the ticking of a broken clock. The smell of rust was stronger here, mixed with mold and something older, something human. Aya raised her camera. The red rec light blinked. Her breath formed small clouds in the frigid air. The tunnel stretched endlessly before her, painted in a sickly green glow from emergency lamps that shouldn't have had power. Greater than, how can there be electricity down here? She muttered, her voice trembling. Her only answer was the low hum of the station's buried heart, a sound too deep, too constant, to belong to machines. At the end of the corridor, The tunnel opened into a small underground room. Old posters clung to the walls, half torn, showing train schedules from 1974. The dates were frozen in time. Next to them hung a cracked mirror streaked with grime. Aya lifted her camera toward the mirror and gasped. There, in the reflection, the room looked brand new: bright lights, clean tiles, and passengers waiting on benches. Yet when she turned around, nothing. Only dust and rot. She turned back to the mirror. A woman in a white kimono was now sitting on the bench. Her head tilted slightly, the neck wound glistening like black oil. Aya's throat tightened. She whispered, barely audible, "Greater than, who are you?" The woman smiled, or tried to. Blood trickled from the corners of her mouth as her body twitched in short, painful spasms. Then, in the reflection, her lips moved. No sound came out. Aya leaned closer. And suddenly, a whisper behind her ear. "Greater than, Aya." She spun around. The room was empty. Her flashlight caught nothing but dust and dripping pipes. Dash dash dash. She took a step back, and the mirror shattered. The sound was deafening. Glass exploded outward, slicing her cheek. The camera fell from her hands, hitting the floor with a dull crack. For a moment, the shattered mirror didn't reflect light, it absorbed it, turning black like an open hole. From inside it came the faint sound of a train moving underground. Though no train should run at this hour. Aya picked up her camera with trembling hands and aimed it at the broken glass. Through the viewfinder, she saw something the naked eye could not, a dim light flickering deep inside the mirror. Like a tunnel leading somewhere far below. And then, faintly, through the static of her camera's audio. "Greater than, Shinjuku line 13, boarding soon." Dash dash dash. Her phone vibrated in her pocket, startling her. It was a message, no caller ID. The screen glitched, letters forming one by one. "Greater than, get out. The walls remember." Aya's heart pounded. She looked up and noticed the walls moving. No, not moving, breathing. The concrete pulsed gently, like muscle. Footsteps echoed behind her. Slow, wet, deliberate. A shadow stretched across the floor, tall, thin, headless. Aya backed away until her spine pressed against the wall. The breathing grew louder, matching her own. She could feel a heartbeat pulsing behind the stone, as if the tunnel itself were alive. "Greater than, who's there?" she cried. No answer. Only the faint whistle of a departing train, somewhere far below. Then the tunnel lights went out. Dash dash dash. For a few seconds, there was only darkness. And in that darkness, a voice. Calm and cold. "Greater than, you shouldn't have come here. Aya Takeda." Her flashlight flickered back on, revealing a door that hadn't been there before. Above it, in faded paint, were the words. "Greater than Shinsu di Shi San Sen Shinjuku Layer 13. Aya swallowed hard. Her hands trembled as she reached for the handle. Somewhere deep below, the sound of the train grew louder. Metal grinding against metal, as if clawing its way up from hell. "Greater than, if this is real," she whispered. "Then the story was never about a ghost. It's about what they buried." She turned the handle and stepped through. Chapter 3. The Fire of 1974. Tokyo, 1974. Smoke. Screams. The wail of sirens that never stopped. The underground construction site beneath Shinjuku was supposed to be Tokyo's pride, Line 13. A new artery beneath the city, deeper than any built before. But on the night of July 12, 1974, it became a tomb. Dash dash dash. Aya Takeda watched the old footage through the cracked lens of her camera. The video, an unmarked tape she'd found behind the new door, played in black and white. Warped by time. The image shook violently, but she could make out workers in helmets. Smoke rising from the tunnels. A woman screaming for help. The timestamp flickered in the corner of the screen. Greater than 1974.07.12 to 23:58. Then, a voice, faint, urgent. "Greater than, evacuate the lower level." The gas lines ruptured. The camera turned. capturing a blur of motion, and then the face of a young woman in a white uniform. Her name tag glinting in the dim light. Greater than Hanabira Miyako, station staff. Aya froze. The woman's face was pale, determined, streaked with soot. She was shouting, pushing people toward the exits. Then the tunnel exploded. Dash dash dash. The video cut to static. Aya stared at the screen, her heart hammering. She rewound the footage, slowed it down. Frame by frame, she saw it, the moment the explosion hit. And for a single second, a shadow appeared behind Miyako. A dark blur shaped like a man. He wasn't helping. He was closing the door. Aya leaned closer to the screen, whispering, "Greater than, who are you?" The man's ID flashed briefly before the image burned out. Greater than Nakata, Hiroshi, construction supervisor. Dash dash dash. A sudden clang echoed through the tunnel behind her. Aya turned off the camera. The sound of the past replaced by the silence of now. Her pulse quickened. Smoke, faint, gray, began seeping from the cracks in the walls. It smelled of burning plastic and old oil. Then came the voices. Not one, but dozens, overlapping like a broken chorus. Greater than, it hurts. We can't breathe. Miyako, save us. Aya stumbled backward, the camera shaking in her hand. The temperature dropped, her breath fogged. Through the smoke, figures appeared, flickering like dying flames, workers, passengers, all half-burned, faces melted, eyes hollow. They were reaching for her. Greater than, no, no, I'm not her, Aya screamed. But their cries only grew louder. Greater than, Miyako, come back, you promised. Dash dash dash. Aya fled down the corridor, feet splashing through puddles of dark water. Behind her, footsteps followed, slow and dragging. The smoke thickened until she could barely see. She stumbled into a larger chamber, a control room scorched black by time. Old switches, melted cables, and a single mirror covered in ash stood in the corner. Someone had written words across it in red. Greater than, she never left. Aya wiped the glass clean. For a heartbeat, she saw only her own reflection. Then, standing beside her, Miyako appeared. Her kimono was burned at the edges, skin pale as wax. Where her head should have been, there was only a dark wound. And yet Aya could feel her eyes watching. The whisper came again, closer now, deep and wet. Greater than, you found me. The mirror cracked. Dash dash dash. The floor gave way. Aya fell, crashing through a layer of concrete, landing hard in shallow water below. Pain shot through her leg, but she forced herself up. The air down here was thicker, the darkness absolute. She turned on her flashlight. The beam revealed rusted train tracks half buried in mud. On the wall beside her, an old, half-burned sign still clung to life. Greater than Shinsu di Shi San Sen Shinjuku Layer 13. Aya's eyes widened. The place wasn't just a rumor. It was real. And from somewhere deep down the tunnel, she could hear it. The distant, metallic shriek of wheels against rail. The sound of a train. A train that should not exist. Dash dash dash. She lifted her camera again. Its red light blinked once, twice, then the feed distorted. Through the static, the viewfinder showed a crowd of people standing silently on the platform ahead. Each of them wore a uniform from 1974. Each of them had no head. And in the center of them all, Miyako stood, holding something in her hands. A silver ring. Greater than, you shouldn't have come here. Aya Takeda. The whisper crawled into her ear as the train's light filled the tunnel. And her camera cut to black. Chapter 4. The Return of the Headless Woman. Tokyo, October 12, 9:14 a.m. Aya Takeda woke with a start. Her lungs burned. Her clothes were soaked, and her camera lay beside her, cracked but still recording. She was lying on the ground outside Shinjuku Station, the morning light stabbing into her eyes. Pedestrians hurried past, indifferent. No one seemed to notice her, or the dark stains spreading from the soles of her shoes. Aya sat up, dizzy. her mind still echoing with the sound of that impossible train. Her body ached, her hands were scraped raw. She reached for her camera, pressed play. Static. Then the sound of wheels grinding on metal. Then her own voice, whispering. Greater than, if anyone finds this, don't go underground. Don't follow line 13, it remembers. That afternoon, she returned to her apartment in Nakano, trying to convince herself it had all been a hallucination. The walls were silent. The air smelled of rain. Aya turned on her laptop and began searching archives of old construction records. Every mention of Shinjuku Line 13 had been erased. Every article about the fire from 1974 led to a dead link. Her phone buzzed. A new message. No sender. Greater than, she's awake. Aya's fingers trembled. Before she could reply, the lights in her apartment flickered. The computer screen turned black, then white. A single phrase appeared, typed out by invisible hands. Greater than, you saw me. The air turned heavy. Cold. Her breath misted in front of her face. She grabbed her camera, the same one that had recorded the tunnel, and turned it toward the wall. Through the viewfinder, she saw her reflection in the window. And behind her, a woman standing silently. White kimono, long hair, blood dripping from her neckline. Her head tilted at an impossible angle, neck torn open, mouth whispering words that only the dead could hear. Aya spun around. Nothing. But when she looked back through the camera, the woman was closer. Greater than, no, Aya whispered. You're not real. The woman reached out. A hand, cold, translucent, pressed against the inside of the lens. The screen filled with static. Then a single image burned through, a subway platform covered in soot and ash. Line 13. And a voice, layered and low, came through the speaker. Greater than, come back. Aya Takeda, we're still waiting. That night, Aya dreamt of Shinjuku Station. But this time, it wasn't empty. Thousands of people crowded the platform, silent, headless. Blood poured from where their necks should have been, seeping down the walls like rain. At the far end of the platform stood Miyako, her white kimono soaked red. She held a ring in her hand, the same one Aya had seen in the footage, and smiled. Greater than, you carry my blood, she whispered. That's why you can hear me. Aya tried to run, but her feet wouldn't move. Her camera hung from her neck, heavy, humming with static. Greater than, what do you want from me? She screamed. Greater than, to remember. Miyako lifted her own severed head by the hair. The mouth moved, slow and deliberate. Greater than, we are one. Aya. Aya woke up screaming. The camera was still recording. But the footage showed something impossible. She was still in bed, still asleep, but a woman was sitting beside her, stroking her hair gently. Only when the woman turned her face toward the camera did Aya see. It was herself. The next morning, Aya went back to Shinjuku. She couldn't explain why, only that something pulled her there. The station looked normal. Crowded, bright, alive. Yet beneath the noise of commuters, she could still hear it. The faint rhythm of a train running where no tracks existed. In the reflection of the train window, she caught a glimpse of a face, her own, but older, pale, and smiling. The same smile she had seen on Miyako. The doors closed. And for a brief second before the train disappeared into the tunnel, Aya's reflection didn't leave with it. It stayed behind, staring at her through the glass. That night, her phone rang. Unknown number. When she answered, the line hissed with static. Then, faintly, greater than, platform 13, last departure, midnight. The call ended. Aya stood in the dark, shaking, her heart pounding. On her camera's cracked display, a new video file had appeared, one she hadn't recorded. Its timestamp read, greater than 013 departure in progress. She pressed play. The screen filled with darkness, then slowly revealed the Shinjuku platform. A single figure stood there in a white kimono. her face hidden in shadow. In her hand, a silver ring gleamed. Then the woman lifted her head, and Aya saw. It was her own face. Chapter 5. Haunted Through the Lens. Tokyo, October 13th, 9:47 p.m. The rain hadn't stopped all day. Neon lights from Kabukicho bled into puddles, staining the streets red and violet like bruised skin. Aya Takeda stood before the entrance to Shinjuku Station, clutching her camera against her chest. Her reflection in the wet pavement trembled as if it were breathing. She wasn't alone. Kenji Mori, a private investigator in his late 30s, stood beside her, tall, worn, eyes tired but sharp. He had once investigated the disappearances tied to this station. He'd seen the bodies, or what was left of them. Greater than, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Kenji asked, voice low and rough. "If we don't, more people will die," Aya replied. "The station isn't done with us." They descended into the lower level, a section of the station long sealed from public access. The metal door that once bore the "Do Not Enter" sign groaned open like an old throat. A rush of stale air poured out, colder than anything natural. The walls were slick with condensation, the floor lined with old rails leading nowhere. Aya switched on the camera's infrared mode. The world around her turned a sickly shade of green. Greater than, the system still powered, Kenji muttered, shining his flashlight along a row of corroded pipes. "That's impossible," Aya whispered. "The city cut electricity to this level decades ago." Then came the sound, a faint hum, followed by a whisper of static in her recorder. "Greater than, Aya, return it." Her blood turned to ice. She turned to Kenji. "Greater than, did you hear that?" "Hear what?" he said, frowning. "There's nothing." But the voice persisted, inside the microphone, slithering through frequencies only she could hear. On the camera's screen, a figure flickered, faint, white, standing behind her. The lights overhead began to blink in a slow, deliberate rhythm. Every time the bulbs dimmed, the figure in the camera came closer. Aya spun around, nothing. But when she looked back at the lens, the specter's hand was on her shoulder. "Greater than, don't turn around," Kenji said softly. "Why?" "Because you won't like what you'll see." Aya swallowed. Slowly, she raised her gaze to the glass safety panel beside the tracks. Her reflection stared back, but it wasn't her. From her neck down, she was normal. But growing out of her shoulder, was another face. A woman's face, pale as wax. Eyes wide open, lips curved into a slow, impossible smile. Aya screamed. The camera fell, clattering against the concrete. It kept recording as she dropped to her knees, clutching her head, sobbing. "Greater than, get out of me. Get out," she cried. Kenji grabbed her shoulders, trying to steady her. But when he glanced at the camera screen, he froze. Miyako's face stared back at him through the viewfinder, black eyes wide, whispering, "Greater than, don't interfere, she belongs to me." The air vibrated with the weight of that voice. Lights shattered. The tunnel filled with darkness, and then, slowly, the emergency lights flickered back on, crimson and pulsing like a heartbeat. They weren't alone. Hundreds of old Polaroid photographs now lined the tunnel walls, pinned with rusty nails. Each photo showed the face of a person who had vanished from Shinjuku over the last 50 years. Every single one had the same mutilation, their heads torn off. Aya raised the camera again, her hand trembling. "Greater than, these people, these are the missing." Kenji's flashlight caught one photo larger than the rest. It showed a young woman in a white kimono, holding a silver ring. Her name was written below in faded ink. "Greater than Miyako Hanabira 1974. Then the loudspeaker crackled to life, ancient and broken. A woman's voice echoed down the corridor, smooth, calm, and wrong. "Greater than, final train approaching. All passengers, please prepare to board." The rails beneath their feet vibrated. Metal screeched against metal. From the tunnel's mouth, a blinding headlight flared, the train from nowhere. Its windows glowed red. Inside, rows of headless passengers sat motionless, their necks steaming faintly in the cold air. The first door slid open with a hiss. A wave of freezing wind hit them. A single pale hand extended from within, holding a torn paper charm. Kenji recognized it instantly. Greater than, that's one of the 13 seals. Aya stepped forward, mesmerized. The hand beckoned her closer. In the reflection on the train's metal surface, she saw herself, except her face was gone, replaced by Miyako's. Greater than, join me, the voice whispered. Make me whole again? Kenji yanked her back just as the train roared past, the force nearly tearing the camera from her grip. The entire station shuddered, lights flickering violently. Then, as quickly as it had come, the train vanished into darkness. Dash dash dash. When the silence returned, Aya lay shaking on the floor. Kenji knelt beside her. Greater than, you okay? She looked up, eyes wide, voice trembling. She's inside me, Kenji. I can feel her. She wants to be alive again. Kenji gritted his teeth. Greater than, if Miyako wants to return, then we have to find the rest of the seals before she does. 13 charms, 13 souls. Once they're gone, Tokyo will follow. Aya clutched her camera to her chest, tears mixing with sweat and dust. Greater than, the last train is coming again, isn't it? Kenji looked toward the tunnel. Red light flickered once. Faint but unmistakable. He nodded grimly. Greater than, yeah, and next time, it won't stop. Chapter 6. The station that shouldn't exist. Tokyo, October 14, 11:57 p.m. Rain slicked the streets again, heavy and relentless, turning the glow of Tokyo's neon into a fever dream. From the overpass above Shinjuku, Aya Takeda and Kenji Mori watched the city pulse with artificial light, the illusion of life. Beneath it, the dead stirred. Aya's camera hung around her neck like a curse. The lens was cracked, but somehow, it still recorded. Through it, the world shimmered, walls breathing, faces melting into shadow. Greater than, every time I look through it, Aya murmured, the city looks different. Because you're not seeing Tokyo anymore, Kenji said, you're seeing the layer underneath. Dash dash dash. They met with Hideo Tanaka, an old spiritual researcher and former metro engineer. His home was cluttered with dusty maps, talismans, and photos of old Tokyo tunnels. He had worked on the original Line 13 project in 1974. Greater than, you found her, didn't you? Tanaka asked, eyes trembling behind his glasses. Miyako Hanabira. Aya nodded slowly. Greater than, she's inside me. I can feel her, and she's angry. Tanaka unrolled an ancient blueprint, yellowed. Fragile. It showed the Tokyo metro system as it once was. But beneath Shinjuku, there was another circle, drawn in red ink. Greater than, this, he said, tapping the paper, is layer 13, not just a platform, a mirror city, built to reflect Tokyo's spiritual energy. It was supposed to be a containment zone. Kenji frowned. Greater than, containment for what? Greater than, for everything the city wanted to forget. Tanaka's voice broke into a whisper. Greater than, but the fire destroyed the seals. The boundary weakened, the forgotten began to breathe again. And Miyako, she became its voice. Dash dash dash. Aya leaned closer. Greater than, if there's another city beneath ours, can we reach it? Tanaka hesitated, then opened a locked drawer and pulled out a train ticket. Old and faded, the paper almost translucent. Stamped across the front were the words, Greater than Shinjuku Juusanbansen Shinjuku Line 13. Greater than, this isn't a ticket for a real train, he said. It's for a spiritual crossing. If you ride the last train at exactly 013, when the station is empty, the doors open to the layer below. Kenji's voice hardened. Greater than, and if we get on? Greater than, you may never come back. Dash dash dash. 12:05 a.m. Shinjuku Station. The concourse was nearly empty now, save for the hum of vending machines and the echo of distant rain. Aya stood before the old platform entrance. Her breath came in clouds. Somewhere in the dark, she could hear faint humming, a woman's lullaby. The same one from her recordings. Kenji checked his watch. Greater than 8 minutes. The station lights flickered, one by one, until the world sank into a low red glow. Aya raised her camera. Through the lens, a different station appeared, same architecture, but twisted. The walls bled faint light, and the air rippled like heat. Greater than Kenji, she whispered, "Look." He couldn't see it, only the camera could. But when Aya lowered the lens, the space around them had changed. The tiled floor was cracked, littered with ashes. Graffiti scrawled across the walls in black Japanese calligraphy read, "Greater than, she never left. Dash dash dash." Then, the train arrived. No announcement, no rumble. It simply appeared, silent, ancient, wrapped in mist. The windows were dark, and the doors opened with a hiss like an exhale. Inside, the seats were covered in dust and dried blood. A faint smell of incense mixed with rot. Kenji looked at Aya. "Greater than, are you ready?" "No," she said honestly. "But I had to know." They stepped inside. The doors closed behind them. Dash dash dash. The lights inside flickered, and for a heartbeat, the car was full. Dozens of passengers sat in silence, dressed in 1970s clothing, heads bowed. Aya gasped. "Greater than, Kenji, there." "Don't look," he whispered. The train jerked violently forward. No motion, no sound, just the sensation of falling. Aya clutched her camera. The lens fogged over. Through it, she saw not their reflection but a city beneath the city. Shinjuku twisted into a maze of tunnels. Built from bones and concrete, lit by blood-red lanterns. The intercom crackled. A calm, distorted female voice spoke. "Greater than, next stop. Shinjuku Layer 13. All passengers please remain seated. Dash dash dash." When the doors opened, the world beyond was wrong. The air was heavy, the sky black, the buildings above warped and leaning like tombstones. Ghostly advertisements flickered on broken screens, showing the same message again and again. Greater than, remember her. The platform itself was endless. In the distance, they could see a staircase descending into darkness, covered in white paper charms. Aya turned to Kenji. "Greater than, we're inside it, the mirror Tokyo." He nodded, jaw tight. "Greater than, then we find Miyako. And we end this. Dash dash dash." But as they stepped forward, the intercom came alive once more. This time, the voice wasn't mechanical. It was her. "Greater than, welcome home. Aya." Aya froze. The reflection in her camera smiled back, but this time, Miyako's face had replaced hers completely. Chapter 7. The Mirror Tokyo. Shinjuku Layer 13, Unknown Time. The air was thicker here. It moved like smoke but felt like breath. Aya Takeda could barely see more than a few meters ahead. The fog was silver gray, swirling with shapes that seemed to twitch just out of sight. The sound of the train had vanished behind them. Only the low hum of unseen power remained, pulsing like a heartbeat beneath the concrete floor. They stood at the edge of a platform that should not exist. The signs were all wrong, station names written backward, clocks frozen at 0:13, and advertisements showing faces without eyes. Kenji tightened his grip on the flashlight. "Greater than, we're not in Tokyo anymore." "We are," Aya whispered, "but it's Tokyo remembering itself." Dash dash dash. They moved through the fog, the station spreading out into impossible corridors, platforms stacked above and below, bridges looping back into themselves. Every wall was engraved with faint scratches, names, thousands of them. Each one seemed to breathe when the light touched it. "Greater than, the lost passengers," Kenji murmured, "people who never left." Aya raised her camera. Through the lens, she saw the true horror. The names weren't carved into the walls, they were written inside the walls. Each letter a face pressed against the stone, screaming silently. She staggered back. "Greater than, they're still alive." "Greater than, not alive," Kenji said softly, "just not gone." Dash dash dash. They passed a broken ticket gate. The metal was rusted, but someone had scrawled words in blood across the turnstile. Greater than, she is the gate. Aya's pulse quickened. She remembered Miyako's whisper from the dream, you carry my blood. Greater than, Kenji, what if I'm the key? He stopped walking. Greater than, you mean? Greater than, Miyako isn't trying to kill me. She's trying to use me. To reopen the way between worlds. Kenji's expression darkened. Greater than, then we stop her before she finds the heart of this place. They continued deeper into the station. The air grew colder, heavier. From far away came the faint echo of a station announcement, looping endlessly. Greater than, the next train will not stop. The next train will not stop. The next train. The tunnel walls pulsed with red veins of light, like arteries feeding a living organism. Aya realized the entire underground structure was alive, the rails, the cables, the walls, all connected, all part of something vast. Then she saw them. The mirror citizens. Dozens of them stood along the tracks, motionless. Their bodies shimmered like reflections on water, translucent, warped, incomplete. They looked almost human, until they turned. Their faces were hollow. Just smooth, featureless skin where their eyes and mouths should have been. Aya raised her camera. Through the lens, she saw something different. The mirror citizens were screaming, their mouths wide open in silent agony. Their hands reached out toward her, trembling. One of them whispered through the camera's static. Greater than, she's coming. A deep rumble shook the floor. The red veins along the walls pulsed brighter. A sound like hundreds of gears grinding echoed from below. Kenji grabbed Aya's arm. Greater than, run. They sprinted through the labyrinth of platforms, dodging flickering figures that reached from the shadows. Every corridor looked the same, yet somehow different, like the city was rearranging itself to trap them. At last, they burst through a pair of double doors and stumbled into an enormous underground concourse. Above them, a glass ceiling showed a sky filled not with clouds but the upside-down skyline of Tokyo, glowing faintly through the fog. Buildings floated in the darkness like ghosts. Aya gasped. Greater than, it's the city, mirrored beneath us. Kenji looked around, awe and fear mingling on his face. Greater than, if this is the reflection, then the real Tokyo is just the surface. We're inside its memory. A voice cut through the air, calm, resonant, familiar. Greater than, you finally understand. They both turned. Standing at the center of the concourse was Miyako Hanabira. Her kimono was pure white, though the ends trailed with blood. Her face was perfect now, no wound, no decay, but her eyes were bottomless black. Aya stepped forward, trembling. Greater than, Miyako, why me? Why all this? Miyako smiled faintly. Greater than, because you are me. You are my blood, my memory, my echo. The city forgot me, Aya. But through you, I can be remembered. Greater than, you want to live again, Aya said. Greater than, no. Miyako's voice was soft, almost kind. I want to live forever. Kenji drew a paper seal from his coat, pressing it against the ground. Symbols glowed in white light, forming a circle around them. Greater than, she's using you. Aya, step back. Miyako's expression didn't change. She tilted her head slightly. Greater than, in you. Detective, you still think you can save her? The ground shuddered. The red veins in the walls burst open, spilling streams of blood. The mirror citizens screamed, 1,000 silent mouths open at once. Miyako raised her hand, and the ceiling above shattered. Shards of glass fell upward into the dark sky, vanishing into the mirrored city above. Greater than, the layers are merging. Miyako whispered, soon, Tokyo will remember everything. Kenji pulled Aya close. Greater than, if she merges the two worlds, both will collapse. We have to destroy the heart before she completes the ritual. Aya's eyes filled with tears. Greater than, but if I destroy it, I'll destroy her too. Greater than, then decide fast. Kenji said grimly, because she's not waiting. Miyako's voice echoed, calm and final. Greater than, welcome to the true Tokyo. My child. From the darkness behind her, a colossal shape began to rise, a living structure of glass and bone. Pulsing with red light, the beating heart of the mirrored Tokyo. Each pulse shook the world like thunder. Aya lifted her camera. The lens cracked again. Through it, she saw everything. The souls trapped in the walls. The memories of the fire. The truth that Shinjuku had tried to bury. And deep inside it all, her own reflection. Smiling back. Chapter 8. The Heart Beneath Shinjuku. Mirrored Tokyo, 12:46 a.m. The ground trembled beneath their feet. The glass and bone structure that loomed before them pulsed like a living heart. Every throb sending waves of red light through the fog. The air was heavy with the scent of iron, old incense, and rot. Somewhere deep inside that monstrous cathedral, something was breathing. Aya Takeda clutched her camera against her chest. The screen glitched with static, flickering between the living and the dead versions of the city. Each time the light pulsed, she saw another Tokyo, twisted reflections of the surface world above. Streets made of ribcages, billboards whispering prayers, trains slithering through the dark like veins. Greater than, it's alive. Aya whispered. No, Kenji said, eyes fixed on the glowing structure ahead. It's remembering. Dash dash dash. They followed a narrow path of cracked tiles leading down toward the base of the heart. The walls around them shifted and groaned, as though the station itself were watching. Strips of paper talismans fluttered along the walls, Ofuda marked with prayers that had long since burned away. Kenji ran his fingers over one of them. The ink was still wet. Greater than, someone's been here recently, he murmured. Aya frowned. Greater than, who else could come down here? Before he could answer, a faint sound drifted through the air, footsteps. Slow and deliberate. They echoed from somewhere behind them, though the tunnel stretched empty for miles. Aya turned her camera toward the sound. Through the lens, she saw a figure walking in the distance, a woman in white. Head lowered, her bare feet leaving bloody prints on the tiles. When she zoomed in, the woman lifted her face. It was herself. Dash dash dash. Aya froze. Her reflection smiled, then turned and walked through the wall. For a moment, the wall itself rippled, like a mirror disturbed by water. Kenji grabbed her arm. Greater than, ignore it. She's pulling you deeper. That's what she wants. But Aya could already hear it, the voice that haunted her dreams. Greater than, Aya, come closer. You'll see what we are. The ground beneath them shifted, the tiles cracking open like dry skin. Steam rose from below, glowing faintly red. The stairs appeared again, spiraling down into darkness. Dash dash dash. They descended for what felt like hours. The air grew hotter, thicker. Each step echoed with whispers. Hundreds of overlapping voices, workers, passengers, children, all murmuring fragments of memory. Greater than, fire, can't breathe, she promised. Don't leave us, Miyako. Line 13 must stay closed. Aya's vision blurred. She felt the weight of countless eyes pressing against her skull. At last, the stairs ended in a massive cavern. The floor was covered in ankle-deep water, reflecting the light from the ceiling, a pulsating network of red veins spreading across the rock like spiderwebs. In the center stood the heart. It was enormous, a sphere of flesh and glass, suspended by metal cables that pulsed like arteries. Every few seconds, it contracted, pumping light through the city's underground veins. And inside, faintly visible through the translucent surface, was Miyako Hanabira. Dash dash dash. She floated in the core, motionless, her hair drifting like smoke, her kimono torn and blood-stained. Her eyes were closed. A ring of fire circled her body, 13 seals burning faintly in the liquid surrounding her. Kenji's breath caught. Greater than, God, it's her. She's the heart. Aya raised her camera. Through the lens, Miyako's eyes snapped open. She stared directly at Aya. Greater than, you came back to me. The sound of her voice didn't come from the air. It came from inside Aya's head. Greater than, I'm tired of dying. Aya, let me live in you. Let me remember. Aya's knees buckled. Pain stabbed through her chest as if invisible claws were reaching for her heart. She dropped the camera, it hit the water. Still recording. Kenji rushed to her side, pulling her back. Greater than, fight her. Don't let her in. Greater than, I can't. Aya gasped. She's part of me. Dash dash dash. The heart pulsed violently. The ground shook. The water turned crimson. From the walls, faces began to emerge, the souls of the dead, pressing outward, trying to escape. Their mouths opened in silent screams, and their words merged into one deafening chant. Greater than, remember us. Remember us. Remember us. Kenji pulled a small dagger from his belt, a ritual blade inscribed with the same sigils as the old Ofuda. Greater than, if the heart is her prison, we destroy it. Aya's voice broke. Greater than, if we destroy it, she dies, and so do they. Greater than, they're already dead. He raised the blade, ready to strike, but the ground erupted. A surge of red energy burst from the heart, throwing them both backward. The dagger flew from Kenji's hand, clattering across the floor into the water. Dash dash dash. Miyako's voice thundered through the cavern. Greater than, I am not death. I am memory. I am everything this city buried to live. She reached through the heart's membrane, her arm extending like liquid light, and touched Aya's face. Aya convulsed, eyes rolling back, her body arching as the air filled with the sound of thousands of whispers. Greater than, Aya, Kenji shouted, grabbing her shoulders. Her eyes snapped open, but they were black. When she spoke, it wasn't her voice anymore. Greater than, you shouldn't have come here. Detective. Kenji stumbled backward. Greater than, Miyako. She smiled, Aya's face. Miyako's soul. Greater than, through her. I will rise again. Through her, Shinjuku will breathe forever. The heart behind her beat faster, brighter, until the whole chamber glowed like molten glass. Above them, the ceiling cracked, and through the fissures, Kenji could see Tokyo above, flickering like a reflection in water. The worlds were merging. Dash dash dash. Kenji clenched his fists. Greater than, if saving Aya means killing you, then I'll do it. Miyako tilted her head. Greater than, then come. Detective. Let's see whose memory survives. The chamber roared to life. Veins glowing red, blood rising around their feet. Aya, or whatever she had become, smiled faintly as the light swallowed them whole. Chapter 9, The 13th Seal. Mirror Tokyo 1:06 a.m. The world had become red. Walls, floor, ceiling, everything pulsed with light and blood. The heart of Shinjuku beat faster now, shaking the cavern with each surge. Aya's body floated in midair, strings of red energy coiling around her like veins connecting to the living city itself. Kenji Mori stood knee-deep in the rising water, gripping the ritual blade with both hands. Every pulse of the heart made his bones vibrate. The line between the real and the mirror world had vanished. Above them, the skyline of Tokyo hung upside down, bleeding light into the darkness. From the suspended heart, Miyako's voice echoed from all directions, warm, calm, and utterly wrong. Greater than, do you see it now? Detective? The city breathes. It remembers. Why would you destroy that? Kenji shouted over the roar. Greater than, because the living can't survive inside a memory. A low laugh reverberated through the walls. Greater than, and what are humans but walking memories? Fleeting echoes pretending to be real? Dash dash dash. Kenji stepped forward. Aya's eyes opened, but they weren't her eyes anymore. They were pitch black, reflecting endless tunnels filled with the dead. Her voice came in two tones at once, hers and Miyako's, overlapping like discordant music. Greater than, Kenji, help me. She can't hear you anymore. He hesitated, the blade trembling in his grip. Greater than, Aya, fight her, you're stronger than this. She screamed, a sound that shattered the still water into ripples of light. Blood rained from the ceiling as the 13 seals surrounding the heart began to burn. One by one, the first seal cracked, a blinding flash of light. Then the second. Then the third. Each one released a soul trapped within, faces twisting in agony as they dissolved into smoke. Greater than, stop it. Kenji roared. You'll tear the boundary apart. Greater than, it's too late. Miyako whispered through Aya's lips. When the last seal breaks, the city above will remember everything it buried. All its ghosts, all its sins. And I will be whole again. Kenji stumbled toward the altar. His hands bled from the heat of the blade. He slammed a talisman against the nearest pillar, shouting the old prayer Tanaka had taught him. Greater than, by the 13 guardians of the East, I bind the gates of remembrance. May the forgotten rest. The heart screamed. The sound wasn't mechanical, it was human. It was Miyako. She appeared behind Aya's body now, translucent, beautiful, terrible. Her head hung slightly to the side, her eyes black flames. Greater than, do you really think words can stop a city? Detective? Tokyo has already chosen me. The 9th seal broke. Aya's voice suddenly rose above the chaos, clearer this time. Her own. Greater than, Kenji, don't stop. He froze. Greater than, Aya? Greater than, I can fight her. But only if you finish the seal. You have to destroy me before she takes full control. Kenji shook his head violently. Greater than, I can't. You'll die. Greater than, if you don't, everyone will. The 10th seal cracked. The entire chamber convulsed. The ceiling split open, and through it he saw the surface world above, people walking the streets. Oblivious. But their shadows no longer matched them. The mirrored Tokyo was bleeding through. Kenji raised the blade high. Miyako's laughter filled the air, echoing through both worlds. Greater than, go on then. Hero. Kill her, and see if your conscience survives longer than your city. He closed his eyes, whispering to himself. Greater than, forgive me. Aya. Then he drove the blade forward, straight into the glowing veins of the heart. The world exploded in light. The chamber became a storm of color and sound. Every surface rippled as if submerged underwater. Kenji was thrown backward, crashing into the wall. Through the glare, he saw Aya collapse, her body convulsing as Miyako's essence tore free from her like smoke ripped from flesh. Greater than, you fool. Miyako screamed, her voice breaking apart. You've doomed both worlds. Kenji forced himself to his feet, staggering toward Aya's motionless body. He reached her just as the 11th and 12th seals shattered, leaving only one. The 13th seal pulsed weakly at the heart center, glowing like a dying ember. Kenji could feel the pull, not physical, but spiritual. It wanted someone to take its place. To complete the cycle. Aya's voice was faint, almost gone. Greater than, Kenji, the last seal needs a soul. A living one. He understood. The realization hit like a blade to the chest. Greater than, no, there has to be another way. Greater than, there isn't. If I do it, I'll be trapped down here forever. Then at least one of us will rest. Kenji looked at her, her face pale, her breath shallow, her eyes still fighting to stay human. He smiled through the tears. Greater than, you always wanted to finish your story, didn't you? Greater than, yes, she whispered. Now you'll end it for me. He kissed her forehead, then turned toward the heart. The last seal hovered, waiting. He pressed the blade into his palm, blood dripping down his wrist, and drew the final sigil in the air. Greater than, by memory, by blood, by loss. I offer myself to close the gate. Miyako shrieked, a sound that tore the world in two. Greater than, no, you can't take my city. Kenji plunged his hand into the heart. Light engulfed everything. The ground vanished. The air turned to silence. When the light faded, Miyako was gone. The heart no longer beat. The chamber was still. Aya lay on the ground, her chest rising slowly. She opened her eyes and saw no one. The dagger, the seals, the man who had saved her, all gone. Only his voice remained, faint, echoing through the empty tunnels. Greater than, the gate is closed. Don't let them forget me. Tears streamed down her face as she clutched the broken camera to her chest. On the cracked screen, one final message burned in faint letters. Greater than Shinjuku Line 13 service terminated. Chapter 10. Echoes of the Forgotten. Tokyo, October 15, 6:37 a.m. The sun rose pale and cold over the city. Shinjuku's towers glistened after the rain, their glass faces reflecting a sky the color of ash. To anyone walking the streets, it was just another morning in Tokyo. Trains rumbled, traffic lights blinked, and coffee shops opened their doors. But beneath it all, something had changed. Aya Takeda sat on a bench outside the station, clutching her camera in both hands. The lens was cracked, its battery dead, yet she couldn't bring herself to throw it away. Her clothes were dry now, but her hands still trembled. Every now and then, she glanced toward the entrance of Shinjuku Station, waiting for something she knew would never come. Greater than Kenji, she whispered. The sound of his name vanished into the noise of the morning crowd. Nobody had seen him since that night. No police report, no body, nothing. The official story said there had been a minor gas explosion in one of the lower tunnels. No casualties, no investigation. Everything wiped clean, again. Just like 1974. Aya turned on the camera. The screen flickered once, then displayed a single line of text, like an afterimage of the last recording. Greater than, the gate is closed. She exhaled shakily. Greater than, then why'd I still hear them? Because she did. Even now, under the noise of the city, she could hear faint whispers, words layered within the electric hum of Tokyo itself. Sometimes in the hiss of the train brakes. Sometimes in the wind between buildings. Voices of the forgotten. That afternoon, Aya returned to the Tokyo Shinbun weekly office. Her editor's desk was empty. Nakata's nameplate had been removed. The drawers cleared. It was as if he had never existed. She opened her laptop and began to type. Her new article started with a single sentence. Greater than, they say ghosts exist because someone, somewhere, refuses to forget. The words came easily, almost automatically, as though another hand were guiding hers. But as she typed, the monitor flickered. The cursor moved on its own, forming words she didn't write. Greater than, you kept your promise. Now it's your turn to remember me. Aya froze. Then, slowly, she smiled through the tears. Greater than, I won't forget you. Kenji. That night, as she walked home through the neon maze of Shinjuku, she noticed something strange. The digital billboards were glitching. For a few seconds, every screen in the district went black, then flashed an old Tokyo Metro logo from the 1970s. Beneath it, a single line of text. Greater than Shinjuku Juusanbansen Shinjuku Line 13. The image vanished almost instantly, replaced by normal advertisements. But when Aya looked down, she saw a reflection in a puddle that shouldn't have been there, the old Shinjuku platform. Empty and dimly lit. And standing at the far end of it, a man in a dark coat, holding a silver ring. Kenji. She blinked, and the image was gone. Only the puddle remained, trembling in the wind. Aya knelt, touching the water. For a moment, her fingers met something cold, like glass. The surface rippled, and she heard it again. The faint, distant sound of a train departing underground. Greater than, Line 13, last departure? Aya whispered. He kept his word. The streetlight above flickered. For just an instant, her reflection smiled back, not quite her own, but not Miyako's either. Something in between. A week later, Tokyo's Transit Authority announced a new project, an extension beneath Shinjuku Station. The newspapers called it a modernization plan. But the old engineers refused to touch it. Some claimed they heard voices echoing from tunnels that had been sealed for decades. Others reported seeing a woman in white walking the tracks at midnight, carrying a camera that glowed faintly red. Aya Takeda never returned to her office. Her apartment remained untouched, except for a single photograph pinned to the wall. It showed the Shinjuku platform, deserted and silent. In the corner of the image, the reflection of a man could be seen, smiling faintly, even though no one had been there when the photo was taken. Below it, Aya had written a single line. Greater than, for those who were never remembered. Dash dash dash. And sometimes, when the clock strikes 0:13, the lights in Shinjuku flicker, and the intercom hums with a voice long gone. Greater than, next departure. Shinjuku Line 13, Chapter 11, The Betrayer. Tokyo, October 20th, 11:45 p.m. 2 days after the flickering billboards incident, Aya Takeda hadn't slept. Her apartment smelled of rain and burnt incense. Every night, she replayed the same recordings on her camera, fragments of whispers. Fragments of a man's voice. Kenji's. But tonight, the whisper was different. Fainter. Older. Greater than, Hanabira Miyako, the fire. Nakata, find the report. Aya froze. The name echoed through the static like a buried memory breaking through stone. Nakata. Her former editor. The man who'd erased every trace of Shinjuku Line 13 from the archives. The one who'd called her stories lies. She remembered his hands trembling when she'd shown him the footage. He hadn't been afraid of her. He'd been afraid of what she might find. Dash dash dash. The next morning, Aya walked into the old Tokyo Shinbun building. Most of the floors had been renovated since Nakata's death, but the archives below ground remained untouched. Dark, damp, and full of paper that smelled like dust and time. The security guard barely looked up when she flashed her expired ID. Nobody cared about journalists anymore. She descended the metal stairs, the echo of her footsteps swallowed by the sound of humming fluorescent lights. Rows of filing cabinets stretched before her like a graveyard of forgotten truths. Greater than, fire, 1974, she muttered, brushing the dust off an old cabinet. Shinjuku Metro records. One drawer was sealed shut with an old red wax mark. The same mark she'd seen on government warnings, classified. Aya hesitated, then forced it open. Inside, a single folder waited, brittle and yellow with age. Stamped across the front. Greater than, confidential. Incident report, line 13 collapse. July 1974. Dash dash dash. She opened it. Inside were photographs, charred tunnels, burnt uniforms, and one image that made her blood turn cold. A group of engineers standing beside an evacuation tunnel. One of them was unmistakably younger, but his eyes were the same. Hiroshi Nakata. And beside him, Miyako Hanabira. Her white uniform smudged with dirt, her smile gentle, her hand resting protectively on her stomach. Aya's breath caught. She flipped through the remaining pages, incident logs, evacuation rosters, until she reached the final report. Half the text was blacked out, but one line was still legible. Greater than, subject M. Hanabira perished in the fire. Pregnant at time of death. Aya's vision blurred. She whispered the words aloud, disbelief twisting her throat. Greater than, pregnant? Her hands shook as she flipped the page again. And there it was. A birth record. No father listed. Only the infant's name, Reiko Hanabira. Her mother's name. Dash dash dash. The room spun. She staggered backward, clutching the folder to her chest. Greater than, no, that's not possible. A soft voice answered from the shadows. Greater than, but it is. Aya turned. An old man stood at the doorway, his face gaunt, his hair white. Hideo Tanaka, the ex-engineer and spiritual researcher, leaned heavily on a cane. Greater than, you were never meant to find that file. Aya's voice cracked. Greater than, you knew. All along. He nodded slowly. Greater than, I built line 13. Aya, I helped them seal it. I knew Miyako. She wasn't just a worker, she was the key to the whole project. Greater than, the containment zone. Aya said, trembling, you said it was meant to trap the city's memories. Greater than, yes, but Nakata loved her. Tanaka's eyes darkened. Greater than, he was supposed to activate the emergency seal the night of the fire. But he didn't. He locked the exits instead, to protect her. He said. When the flames reached the fuel line, she died, and so did the unborn child inside her. Aya whispered. Numb. Greater than, but the report said the baby survived. Greater than, it did. Tanaka's voice broke. He saved it. He took it away before the explosion. Greater than, my mother. Tanaka looked at her, sorrow deep in his eyes. Greater than, Reiko was the child of Miyako Hanabira and Hiroshi Nakata. The words hit like a blade. Aya stumbled back against the filing cabinets. Every sound in the world seemed to vanish. All she could hear was her heartbeat, hammering in her ears. Greater than, then, that means. Greater than, yes, Tanaka said. You, Aya, carry both of them. The blood of the betrayer, and the blood of the betrayed. Aya's tears blurred the light. Greater than, all this time, the curse wasn't calling me. It was remembering me. Tanaka nodded slowly. Greater than, you are the bridge. Aya, the last living link between what Tokyo was and what it buried. That's why the seal answered you. That's why Miyako won't rest. Before Aya could respond, the lights flickered. A gust of icy wind swept through the archive room. The papers fluttered off the shelves, swirling in a storm of dust and whispers. Greater than, she's here. Tanaka whispered. The walls began to sweat blood. From the reflection in the glass cabinet, Aya saw her grandmother's face, Miyako's, staring back at her. Eyes hollow, lips moving soundlessly. Greater than, she's not done, Aya said through gritted teeth. Even after Kenji sealed the gate, she's still trying to come through. Tanaka clutched his chest, struggling to breathe. Greater than, the 13th seal wasn't enough. A new breach is forming. You're the only one who can stop her now. Aya turned toward the mirror. Miyako's reflection smiled faintly. Greater than, and if I don't? The glass cracked. The reflection reached out, her voice soft, almost loving. Greater than, then you'll finally understand what it means to be forgotten. The lights exploded. The archive went dark. Chapter 12. Shinjuku in the dark. Tokyo, October 22nd, 2:17 a.m. It began with the lights. One by one, across Shinjuku's towers, the neon signs flickered and went out. A silence spread like smoke. Then the power grid itself began to pulse, not steady, not electric, but alive. People woke to see the walls of their apartments trembling as if breathing. Screens glowed crimson. Elevators whispered. And beneath it all came the sound of metal, rails grinding against steel far below. Though no train was scheduled that night, Tokyo's heart was beating again. Aya Takeda stood in the middle of the street. Camera clutched to her chest, her breath visible in the cold air. The city around her was still, but not dead. She could feel it watching. Every streetlight flickered in rhythm, the same pulse she'd felt in the tunnels weeks ago. Greater than, it's happening, she whispered. Hideo Tanaka's voice came through the phone, faint and ragged. Greater than, the curse has infected the grid. Every transformer, every signal line, it's spreading through Tokyo's veins. Greater than, can we stop it? Aya asked. Greater than, only if the source is sealed again. But that seal was tied to Kenji's soul. Then it died with him? No, Tanaka said softly. It passed to you. Aya's hand shook. Greater than, me. Greater than, you're the blood of Miyako and Nakata. You're the link between both worlds. You must go back, Aya. To where the heart was. The streetlights dimmed completely. Only the glow of her camera's viewfinder remained. Through it, Shinjuku shimmered, a ghost overlaying the real. She could see both cities now, the living one and the mirrored one, bleeding into each other. People around her froze mid-step, eyes glassy, motionless like mannequins. Their shadows rippled across the ground, separating from their bodies and walking away on their own. From the nearest billboard, Miyako's voice whispered, calm, gentle, terrifying. Greater than, do you feel it, Aya? Tokyo is remembering me. You don't have to fight anymore. Aya raised the camera, pointing it at the screen. Through the lens, she saw Miyako's face, serene, smiling, reflected across every digital display in the city. Greater than, "You're destroying everything," Aya said. "No," Miyako whispered, "I'm giving it life." The billboard's image flickered. In the reflection of the glass, Aya saw not herself, but her mother, Reiko Hanabira. "Greater than, Mom," Aya gasped. Reiko's reflection reached toward her. "Greater than, end it. Aya, don't let her use us again." Then the reflection shattered. 2:45 a.m. Underground Metro access. Aya reached the sealed gate of Line 13. The floor trembled with every heartbeat of the city. Her camera light danced across the metal doors, warped, dented, marked with new symbols glowing faintly red. She took a deep breath and pressed her palm against the steel. It was warm. It was breathing. "Greater than, let me in," she whispered. The door opened. The air inside was thick with the smell of ozone and blood. The tunnels had changed, no longer ruins, but something new, something built from both worlds. Cables hung like veins, dripping light. The floor rippled beneath her feet. Every step echoed with whispers. Some were her own. Some were Kenji's. And some were voices she didn't recognize, workers, passengers, the dead. "Greater than, we never left. She promised us peace. Remember us, Aya?" She followed the sound deeper, toward the central chamber where Kenji had fallen. The heart was gone, but in its place stood something else. A vast, spiraling mass of wires and flesh, forming a new structure, half machine, half spirit. At its center, a door of light pulsed slowly, like the eye of a god trying to wake. Tanaka's voice came faintly through the phone. "Greater than, Aya, the curse is evolving. It's feeding on Tokyo's energy. If it stabilizes, the whole city will become part of the mirror world. Greater than, then I'll stop it. Greater than, you'll need to reopen the seal Kenji created. But to do that, greater than, I'll need to find him." Aya finished. Tanaka hesitated. "Greater than, he's still in there. Aya, trapped between the seals. If you go in, you might not come back. Greater than, I never planned to." She stepped closer to the door of light. The closer she got, the louder the whispers became. Thousands of voices, all crying her name. And behind them, one familiar whisper, low and soft. "Greater than, Aya, you kept your promise." Her heart ached. "Kenji." She placed her hand against the light. It was warm, pulsing with memory. She closed her eyes. "Greater than, take me to him." The door opened. For a moment, there was nothing. Then the sound of rails. Faint and distant. A train approaching through infinite dark. A single red light appeared in the void ahead, growing brighter. Aya stepped forward onto a platform made of glass. The train of souls slid silently to a stop before her, its doors opening with a sigh. Inside, the seats were empty except for one passenger. Kenji Mori sat by the window, smiling faintly. "Greater than, you took your time," he said. Tears filled her eyes. "Greater than, I thought I'd lost you." "Greater than, you did," he said softly, "but the gate doesn't close for the remembered." Aya stepped inside, the doors sliding shut behind her. The train began to move. Outside the windows, the mirror city fell away, towers crumbling, shadows fleeing into the dark. Kenji reached out, placing his hand over hers. "Greater than, you can end it now. You have both halves, her blood and mine. Seal it, Aya, let the city sleep." She nodded, gripping his hand tightly. "Greater than, will I see you again?" Kenji smiled sadly. "Greater than, in stories. That's where ghosts go when they're remembered." The train entered a tunnel of white light. Aya raised the camera one last time, pointed it at her reflection. Miyako's face appeared beside hers, calm now. Peaceful. "Greater than, thank you," Miyako whispered, "for remembering me." The world dissolved in silence. 3:13 a.m. Shinjuku. Surface. Power returned to Tokyo. The lights flickered back on. The hum of the city resumed, ordinary and deafening. But under the noise, no one heard the faint, fading sound of a train pulling away. No one, except a little girl waiting for the first morning train. She looked down at the empty platform and smiled. On the far wall, faint but visible, someone had written, "Greater than, line 13 closed for eternity." Chapter 13, The Ritual of Release. Tokyo, October 23, 12:13 a.m. The city was silent again. No trains, no sirens, no hum from the neon. Just the steady, distant pulse of power flowing beneath the streets, the heart of a world that had almost died. In the forgotten platform below Shinjuku Station, Aya Takeda stood alone. The air shimmered faintly, rippling between shadow and light. Behind her, the gate she had entered now glowed like a wound closing itself. Before her, a pool of still water reflected the empty rails that led nowhere. She raised her camera one last time. It turned on without a battery, humming softly. Through the lens, she could see both worlds, the real Tokyo and its reflection, folding gently together like two halves of the same dream. Greater than, Kenji, she whispered. I'm here. His voice came from the air, faint but clear, woven into the low hum of the tunnels. Greater than, you shouldn't have followed me. Greater than, I couldn't let you stay forgotten. There was silence, then a sound like footsteps approaching on metal rails. The reflection in the pool rippled, and Kenji appeared beside her. Faint, transparent, eyes calm. He smiled the way he always had, tired, kind, unafraid. Greater than, the gate's closing. You don't have much time. Aya nodded, tears filling her eyes. Greater than, I know. That's why I came. She knelt beside the water and took a small, silver ring from her pocket, the same one she had found in the footage from Miyako's tunnel. It gleamed faintly in the dark. Greater than, this was hers, she said softly. It belonged to Miyako Hanabira. Kenji nodded. Greater than, and now it belongs to you. The last of her line. Aya's fingers trembled as she placed the ring on the rail. The moment it touched metal, the entire platform lit up, symbols burning along the tracks, spiraling outward like veins of light. Greater than, what are you doing? Kenji asked. Greater than, finishing what she began. Aya whispered, the city doesn't need to forget anymore. It needs to forgive. From the far end of the platform, Miyako appeared. Not the vengeful spirit now, but the woman she had been. Her kimono clean, her face serene, her hair pinned in the old style of the 1970s. She looked at Aya with something that wasn't hate, or hunger, but sadness. Greater than, you came back, Miyako said. I had to, Aya replied, you're my blood. Miyako stepped closer. Her voice trembled. Greater than, they locked me away because I remembered too much. The city burned, and I begged them to save us, but they sealed the gate instead. I wanted them to remember, not to live forever, but to be seen one last time. Aya nodded, tears falling freely now. Greater than, then let me see you. Let them all see you. She lifted her camera. The lens glowed. Through it, the forgotten world unfolded, the passengers, the workers, the victims of 1974. Each appeared along the tracks like flickering ghosts, bowing their heads in silence. Miyako smiled faintly. Greater than, you carry both sides of me, the betrayer and the betrayed. You understand what it means to forgive. Aya raised the camera toward the ceiling, where the faint outline of modern Tokyo glimmered like starlight through the earth. She whispered the final words of the ceiling prayer Kenji had left her. Greater than, may memory sleep, and the living dream in peace. The rails ignited with pure white light. The ground trembled. Miyako's body began to fade, her hair dissolving into dust and light. The other souls followed, rising from the platform in a slow, silent tide. Their faces were calm, their eyes clear. Kenji reached out, his hand brushing hers, and for the first time, she felt warmth. Greater than, you did it, Aya. Are you free now? No, he said softly, smiling. But you are. He looked up, toward the light. Greater than, tell our story. Make them remember us not as ghosts, but as people. Greater than, I will. Aya whispered. The last of the souls vanished into the light. The platform went still. The air was clean again. The faint sound of running water filled the silence, the ordinary, living heartbeat of a city finally resting. Aya sat down on the cold floor, camera on her lap. Its screen flickered once, showing the final recording. Greater than Kenji Mori, Shinjuku line 13. Status. Departed. She smiled through the tears. Greater than, goodbye, Kenji. Dawn. Shinjuku station reopened as if nothing had happened. Commuters hurried through the platforms, yawning, sipping coffee. Nobody noticed that one of the station walls, long sealed off, had a new mural painted on it. It showed a woman in white standing on a platform, holding a camera, watching a ghost train disappear into the dark. Below it, a line of words in both Japanese and English. Greater than, for the forgotten who taught Tokyo to remember. Midnight, October 31st. A maintenance worker doing a final inspection paused on the platform. He thought he heard something, a faint whisper echoing through the rails. Then the red signal light flickered once. And from somewhere deep in the tunnels came the soft, haunting sound of a train passing. Even though every schedule said there shouldn't be one. Greater than, next departure, Shinjuku line 13. The sound faded. The city slept. They say the curse ended that night. That Shinjuku finally slept again. But sometimes, when the city grows too quiet, you can still hear a distant train passing through the tunnels that no longer exist. No lights, no passengers, just a single figure standing by the window, holding a camera that glows faintly red. And if you listen closely, past the rumble of wheels, past the hum of electricity, you might hear her voice, soft and calm, whispering from beneath the city. Greater than, next departure, Shinjuku line 13. Because in Tokyo, even ghosts hate to be forgotten.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.